Hi, Michael and Middleton here, and yes, that's an umbrella. I'm at Wonderwood Park in Lacey recording this, and it's still sprinkling pretty good. So thought I would find a fairly sheltered spot that should work as long as I can keep drips off of the computer. So here I am going to be reading Chapter 9 of The Great Deep, my allegorical fiction novel. And as always, I will freeze frame the back or put it up there and let you pause it. If this is the first of these videos you're running across, you can get just a little overview of the book. Go follow the link to the Good Books playlist on my YouTube channel, and you can see all the ones leading up to this. But I'm going to read Chapter 9 on this video. Chapters 9 and 11 are kind of special. They're dreams, visions, other spiritual experiences that I myself had that I worked into the storyline of this novel. Fictionalized, worked it into the storyline. So I'm a rather visually oriented person. If you see some twitching, something that looks like my brain short-circuiting, it's because I'm visually remembering some of these images, and it's kind of overpowering. Can be if I let myself ponder on it too much. So, Chapter 9 of The Great Deep, and we'll continue from there. Again, if you go back and listen to the previous chapters, you'll understand this better. You may see me twitch a little bit too, kind of adjusting this umbrella. Okay, so Chapter 9. William slid in behind the steering wheel and pulled the door closed. It was a warm day, so he rolled the window down. He then adjusted the mirrors and stuck the key into the car's ignition. As he turned the key, he pumped the gas pedal vigorously. The car sprang to life with a deafening growl, which soon settled down to more of a fine-tuned purr. He let the engine warm up for a minute or two before switching his foot to the brake pedal. He held the brake pedal down firmly as he first released the parking brake and then shifted the transmission into drive. Slowly letting off the brake, he shifted his foot over again to the gas pedal and began accelerating down the dusty country lane. The day was dry and hot. Clouds of dust boiled up into the morning air behind him as he sped along. He didn't know exactly where he was going, but he was the one driving. That was all that mattered. Wherever this dusty, bumpy country road led him, he was in charge of getting there. He had control. It was up to him. William comforted himself with this thought as he continued driving. The scenery, which had at first been comforting and familiar, was beginning to change. Before long, he no longer recognized anything about his surroundings. Had he taken a wrong turn somewhere? He did not know. In addition to not knowing where he was going, he now had no idea where he was. Although this confused him, he was not really frightened. He was still the one driving. He was still the one in control. That was all that mattered. That would do. As William continued driving towards his unknown destination, something was suddenly different. He wasn't sure what at first, but something felt different. Without warning, the car lurched hard to the right, turning onto a broad side road which led down a steep hill. A sudden flush of panic overtook William as he slammed hard on the brake pedal, but nothing happened. He let off and tried again, pumping the brakes repeatedly. The car did not slow down at all. Grasping the steering wheel with an iron grip, he tried to turn the car. The speeding automobile paid no heed to his demands, but seemed to have come alive with a will of its own. It was about then that William realized that he was dreaming. But if he was dreaming, how could he know that, consciously? How could he, while asleep, be aware of that fact, consciously? This was truly a strange experience, one that was totally new to William, but he knew it to be fact. However, knowing that fact did not alleviate his growing concern over his present dream state crisis. He grasped the steering wheel even harder while nearly pushing the brake pedal through the floorboard. With all of his strength, he turned the wheel, which finally yielded to his demands. Yes, he thought, now I'll finally break free. But this was not to be. Although the steering wheel did turn, and yes, the tires began to give way, the direction of the car's travel did not change. Instead, it began to spin in a counterclockwise motion, with the brakes fully locked. There was a terrible grinding sound as the spinning automobile continued its descent down the long, steep hill. It must be more than simple gravity taking it there, William now knew. There must be some unseen force at work, one far greater than the Earth's allotment of gravity could muster. As he fearfully struggled to regain control of his destiny, the car continued its unyielding journey into the unknown, drawn by some celestial force with the consumptive resolve of a black hole. William fought with every ounce of determination he possessed, but it was clear that his strength was both inadequate for and inconsequential to the present crisis. Just as the car reached the bottom of the hill, the consuming force seemed to slacken. The car slowed, straightened out, and came to a stop. William, shaking somewhat, hung his head in relief and took a moment to compose himself. He then raised his head again, gazing through the dust-covered windshield. There was something out there in the distance, something beautiful. He did not yet know what it was, but it intrigued him. Some distance away, far across the barren landscape, just where the sky met the earth, there seemed to be an oasis of sorts. Hues of emerald and aquamarine graced the far horizon. His curiosity hopelessly aroused, William opened the door and stepped out of the car. Instantly, his perspective shifted, and he saw himself from some distance to the left of the car where he was standing. Wow, this is strange, he thought. He was conscious of being next to the car, but also of seeing himself from some distance away, both at the same time. As William continued gazing at the distant lake, he now knew that that's what it was, he felt a deep yearning for it. He was hot and dusty, and thought that a swim in a nice, cool lake would be wonderful. Besides, it was so beautiful, so captivating. However, he had become aware that he, that is to say, his dream self, did not know how to swim. He was profoundly disappointed. Despite the allure of the beauty before him, he was resigned to remain where he was, barren, dry, and joyless. Guess that's not bad. Then the strange got stranger. He heard a sound behind him and caught just a glimpse of the back door of the car opening. What? He questioned. I was in that car alone. There wasn't anyone with me. He saw feet step out of the car and the bottom edge of a white robe. A shadow then fell across the ground next to his dream self. Suddenly, the shadow betrayed the identity of its owner. As his dream self spun around, his face flushed white and his eyes grew wide. But William could see only the face of his dream self, not of the one approaching him. William's view shifted again. He now seemed to be seeing through the eyes of the one who had been in the back seat of the car, who had now picked up his dream self, cradling him in his arms. The unseen figure now began carrying William towards the distant lake. He walked along slowly, but his intent was somehow evident. He was carrying William to the lake. William again realized that in his dream, he did not know how to swim. As they drew closer to the lake, William grew increasingly uneasy. Before long, the unseen figure stood right at the water's edge, with William still cradled in his arms. The water was incredibly beautiful, but he was overwhelmed with fear. He had lost control of the car. his ability to control his own destiny, and now he found himself carried by a will greater than his own to the brink of something that, although enticing, frightened him terribly. William sensed a deep and abiding compassion radiating from the figure holding him. He wanted to trust, but somehow thought, "You just don't understand. I can't." In the wink of an eye, William found himself airborne. The mysterious figure had thrown him out over the lake. He arced high into the air, then began plummeting towards the water below. As he inhaled sharply, paralyzed with fear, he saw the hands that had cradled him extend towards him. The hands, powerful hands, yet exceedingly gentle. Hands calloused by hard labor and scarred by iron spikes. From these hands which had crafted the hydrogen atom, and from that humble beginning, flooded the entire cosmos with life-giving radiance. From these hands which first formed man from the dust of the ground, and drew a companion from his side. From the hands which fashioned the tree that was used to extinguish his life. The hands which had carried William to this place. From these hands now blazed an awesome grace. A brilliance unmatched erupted from the outstretched hands, enveloping William, suspending him in midair over the lake. That light, he had seen it before. It was the same blazing, fluid brilliance that had flashed in the field that night, yet now in even larger measure somehow. Was this being, this one who had carried him here, the ultimate source of this living light? Was he the source of all?